A violent offender just walked free. Again. And the chances are you won't hear about it until it's too late. Dangerous offenders, people legally designated as high risk to reoffend, are continuously being released back into the streets, back into the communities. Why are we so soft on crime? According to polls, the majority of people in this country, they favor harsher penalties for individuals accused of violent crimes. It seems like everybody you talk to these days is tired of soft on crime policies and the catch and release system that's currently in place. So why does it seem like there's no political will to end the practice? There's been a lot of talk about capital punishment recently because of comments made by a premier. Of course, that's going to garner some attention. Here's some interesting stats. Starting in 2020, research shows that majorities in every region side with the return of capital punishment, as high as 62% in some provinces. I'm not going to go as far as to say that we should bring back capital punishment. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I want to share that with you. And I'm going to include the link in the article in the description to this video. I started paying attention to politics about 20 years ago. And at that time, there was an election happening and the issue of capital punishment came up. I think one of the candidates mentioned capital punishment and it was taken out of context. And they wanted to do a poll to find out how many Canadians actually supported capital punishment. And what they found out was that it was actually quite a high number of Canadians actually supported capital punishment, as long as they were 100% certain that it was the right person. And of course, it had to be, a repeat offender, very violent. But they were surprised at how high the number was of people that actually supported capital punishment. We all know life in prison doesn't mean life in prison. They shouldn't even use that term at all, to be honest. It's misleading. People convicted for absolutely unspeakable crimes who've received life in prison, they end up paroled and back on the streets time and time again. They shouldn't use that term unless they change it. Unless they change it to mean life in prison with no chance of parole. Ever. More than half of Canadians prefer life imprisonment without the possibility of parole to deal with convicted murders, while just over a third chose a death penalty. So if they were serious and life in prison, again, actually meant life in prison for convicted murders, then less people would go with the option of the death penalty. In 2024, the National Post ran an article titled "The Heinous Offenders Canada Freed in the Past 3 Months." I'm going to link the sources in the article in the description. I can't get into the details of the crimes these individuals committed in this video because it'll be taken down, no doubt, but they're very disturbing to hear. I don't know why the details of these releases don't lead to more public outcry, to be honest with you. It's not like these things are happening on the other side of the world where you might hear about it if you happen to be looking up news in that part of the world. Out of sight, out of mind, which isn't right also. These things are happening in neighborhoods everywhere. And the accused or those responsible, they're also being released to neighborhoods everywhere, right across the country, possibly near you. I don't know why people are so passive about it. Is it because it's too disturbing that you can't even talk about it? You don't even want to think about it? It's too difficult to face that reality. You'd prefer just to shield yourself altogether? I don't know if that's okay anymore. I've attended thousands of radio calls over the years, and you feel so bad for victims sometimes because they're so shielded. And you wonder if perhaps if they had their guard up or they were more aware that they would have seen some warning signs. Maybe that something was off. I was at a large get-together years ago, and one of the parents there, they mentioned that they were happy for a weekend away from their daughter because the daughter was with her mom, their grandma. So the kid was gone for the weekend. So this person's mom, again, the child's grandma, they were dating a man for, I guess, the past few months. And I asked the mom if she trusts the mom's partner. And her response to me was, I don't even want to think about that. And I didn't say this at the time because it's not really my place. But in the back of my mind, I thought, you're her mom. It's your job to think about those things. I'm not going to go over the details of the crimes of those who were released from custody, what they committed, but whatever disturbing thoughts come to your mind is probably worse. And that was just over a 3-month period. As the article states, even being designated a dangerous offender doesn't guarantee that the person won't get released. You see news alerts about this all the time. Police warning you that a dangerous offender with a high likelihood to reoffend is back in the community. I mean, what a way to live sometimes. I suppose that at least we know about these ones, because there's plenty of others walking among us who have the same tendencies. They're on the verge, or they've already offended and they just haven't got caught. I suppose we should be thankful that at least we know about some of them. After a few years of policing, I remember thinking to myself that I no longer look at people the same way that I used to. I no longer immediately see the good in people or in every situation. I couldn't believe how many offenders of all kinds just walked among us. Coming from a policing family and growing up around cops, I was never all that naive to begin with, but some people, they just go through life without having a clue. And I didn't know if I should be jealous of them or feel bad for them, but personally, I wouldn't want to go back to being that naive. I'm sorry that I keep bringing things back to me and I share my stories. I just try to make things more relatable in these videos. It sometimes helps me get the point across. And what about the smaller crimes that occur more often? Minor assaults, thefts, robberies, property damage, theft. They're not so small to the victims. It could be the worst thing that ever happened to them. Those are the things that the average citizen has to deal with and witness on a daily basis, as well as the larger scale crimes, which make the media. All across North America, you hear stories of violent, repeat offenders back on the streets where they continue to reoffend, and their victims live in fear. Most people have had enough. I need to dumb this down a little bit. I dumb it down for people like me to understand, not for you, so don't take it as an insult. Let's say there's two candidates that you have to choose from in the next election, who are fairly similar, except one candidate has a tough on crime mandate, and the other candidate, he doesn't really talk about crime all that much, but they want to cut down on your property taxes by $50 a month. You pay property taxes, so you're happy about that. You never really had to deal with crime all that much. I mean, you see things happening online, smash and grabs. Your car was broken into once, but nobody was really hurt, and you want that $50 a month. I'd rather keep my property taxes the way they are and at least know that the dangerous offender is where they should be and not free to target innocent people. You can't put a price on feeling safe and secure in your home or knowing that your family has a better chance because the person who already committed 20 violent robberies or home invasions while on bail or while on parole, they're not free to keep reoffending. That has to be worth something. I come from a police family and I have over 20 years experience as a police officer for the largest municipal police service in the country. I also have 5 years experience as a human rights commissioner. I've listened to and I've been involved in discussions around crime and punishment my entire life. And I'm old. Besides that, I'm also a father and I'm concerned about crime everywhere. You can take my thoughts or you can take my advice with a grain of salt, but I'm not exactly brand new to this. We have a federal election coming up. Could be sooner than anybody thinks. If what I brought up in this video concerns you at all, you need to express your concerns to your local candidate who's running in the next election. It's never been easier to make your voice heard. There's Facebook groups. You can connect with the candidate online through different social media channels. They might not engage with you personally, but you can leave comments and have family or friends do the same. And of course, you can be old school and pick up the phone and chat with them. It doesn't matter what political party you support. You have the right to know where they stand on these issues. I want a politician to look in the camera directly and explain their thoughts and feelings on issues of crime and punishment and whether or not they're okay with the status quo. I've made lots of videos about these types of things in the past. I don't want to get into it, but when the most recent changes were made to releases, I was working as a police officer, working primary response, and we were releasing people on scene for things that they normally would have been taken in for, and it didn't feel right. And that change was like overnight. This isn't the most important election issue to everybody, but it should be pretty high up there. It is for me, because my eyes have been opened. If you work for transportation or the Ministry of Fisheries and Oceans, I'm sure your concerns will be different. I have family, they live on the West Coast and they work for an organization which they're doing their best to replenish the salmon population of rivers and streams. That's an important issue as well. You shouldn't be a single issue voter, but if you don't feel safe, then it's almost like there's a gray cloud over everything else that you do. The majority of people want tougher penalties for violent crime. So why hasn't anything changed? If this concerns you, you need to make your voice heard, because at the end of the day, your safety and the safety of your family depends on it. Please share your thoughts on this. Forgive me for my voice. It's a little hoarse. I'm not sick, but I don't know. There's something. Be safe out there. Look after one another, and perhaps we will see you again.